cultural hybridization and homogenization. Which is better at communicating nuances from films to resonate with a global audience? The answer to this question is hybridization, because homogenization standardizes global films rather than highlighting the reason of what makes whatever you watch truly meaningful. What is cultural homogenization? It is the belief that culture is a battleground for ideology, where both terms have synonymous meaning, in that processes and perspectives of politics, nationalism, identification, and differentiation are rationalized and bound within separate, indifferent civilizations. Moreover, homogenization flattens nuances within global content through generic global formulas such as McDonaldization, with efficient, calculable, predictable, and controlling labor and customers. Though, this article implies that people don't respond to repetition only. The reason why people are drawn to go back to things is because the aesthetic quality of that thing provides inspiration to look at human issues at different angles. In particular, liminality and intertextuality in global film is a form of hybridization, allowing all audiences to question how people perceive aesthetics and the medium, where it subverts nationalism because it privileges border crossing, identity politics, and authenticity, a resurrection of subjugated knowledges. New social technologies are profound in themselves, while each culture provides its own take on a new space of commonality. Therefore, homogenization processes don't favor the idea of otherness compared to hybridization's liminality. The issue with aesthetics comes from the idea of film as only content creation, where the McDonaldization example goes against different manifestations of art and art form. But then why are audiences drawn to new things? The medium's global purpose might be to locate the ultimate purpose and reality of being that is understood as a being's search for its own contradiction. This contradiction in aesthetics is what keeps audiences questioning and inspired rather than merely accepting face value beings, which is definitely the case with Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. Also, a lens that both hybridization and Studio Ghibli subvert in order to communicate nuances is Marshall McLuhan's hot and cold media theory. Specifically, it separates television and speech as cool interpretive media and visual/print as hotter, more linear media. In essence, McLuhan associates visuality with uniformity because his theory outlines the impact of established media technology enforcing global village-like behavior, where this model would create a homogeneous assumption that all new media is surface level, thus making disproportionate mass conservatism. Besides, McLuhan's deductions of global media have become superseded over time, because of his flattening approach that film isolates the spectator. Collective reception is replaced by an idea of television as a tribal drum, and McLuhan is happy about it, a technocratic version of anti-humanism. Through Miyazaki's seminal work, Spirited Away, liminality and intertextuality deepened the aesthetics of this film through challenging McLuhan's statement of films. The world-building of Spirited Away is a place of contradiction, where hostility and victimization is explored through this liminal space with aesthetics that show Japanese culture being hybridized. This is furthered through a dazzling bricolage which includes elements of Meiji and Tokugawa temple architecture, mixed with Chinese restaurant styles. Chihiro loses her original identity, constructing a new, more powerful form of subjectivity. Likewise, Spirited Away's intertextuality with a Western storytelling archetype links to liminality, because the skewed landscapes tie directly into identity and lack thereof. Specifically, a Western point of comparison is Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, which goes through various forms of initiation rites. However, the notion of the female rather than the male as the conduit into liminality has become more ambiguous, a metaphor for Japanese society drifting uneasily away from the values and ideological framework of the immediate post-war era. In essence, Studio Ghibli's aesthetics of intertextuality subvert this homogeneous lens in favor of hybridization, because McLuhan's post-war framework is to portray versions of subjugated otherness affecting his technocratic view. Conversely, Miyazaki develops a metacriticism of showcasing timeless but purgatorial Japanese ideas of purity, modernity, and mass consumerism from a liminal space. In particular, a subverted Campbell hero archetype against an anonymous, conservative, tribalized, and anti-humanist world. To conclude, Studio Ghibli's distortion of cultures helps deepen timeless provocative messages on the human condition, rather than shoehorning or flattening them. Thus, Spirited Away feels like a self-aware assessment of detribalized Japanese context that resonates with other global audiences who are retribalized through personal watching experience together.